Hello, my friend. Single page view transitions are here and they're amazing because they allow us to do just a few lines of code to get filtering animations like this one right here. Though they can do a lot more than that, we have a lot of control over them, so we can do theme transitions like you can see right here as well. There's a few little gotchas and stuff with them though. So in this video, we're going to be looking at how we can do these transitions, the problems that you can run into while you're trying to do these types of things, and how to fix them along the way as well. If that sounds good to you, well, let's jump right into it. All right, so we're going to be diving in here, and you can see I already have a bunch of JavaScript written, which is giving me the filtering that I have right now. So I realize a lot of people might already have filtering in place. They just want to add in the transitions or learn about the transitions. So if that's the case for you, you can just jump to the timestamp that's on the screen right now, or to jump over and just into that side of things, just really fast in case you want to understand the JavaScript I have for this. We're going to look at it quickly now and break it down, and a few of the important things I have set up here. So if I go over to my HTML, I used a field set with radio buttons. So radio here, all the way down. I'm just styling the labels to look like buttons, so that's why they look the way they do. And then I have the important part of these is I have the value, so value web app, value all, value e-commerce. And then on each one of the portfolio items, I have a data category. So I have the data category of web app, I have the data category of e-commerce, and so on for the different ones. And then when I click on it, it's filtering through. The way the filtering is working is we're getting the value of the check. So when I click on one of the radio buttons here, we're adding an event listener of change. So anytime it on checks or checks, we're getting the checked value. If the radio is checked, we're going to get the radio value. So if the value is web app, it's getting that value. And then I'm doing my update portfolio items and I'm passing that filter value through. And all I'm doing here is basically checking, we're looping through all of the portfolio items. And I'm getting the data category from each one of them. So getting the attribute of the data category. If our filter value is all of the elements I have a class of hidden, which is just a display none, so it's removing it. Or if we do have a category, so we actually have a filter value, like our web app or our e-commerce, if it matches that, then it's going to remove the hidden from all the elements that have that, but it's going to add the hidden to all of the other ones. So it hides the ones we don't want, it shows the ones that we want. That's it. Very, very straightforward. The one thing that's important for this, for view transitions here when we're doing this, is you really want to try and keep the functionality of it as a separate function rather than having it be part of like having all of this. Because I could do this with my view transition. We just end up repeating the code twice. So if you need to fix it at one point, that becomes a little bit annoying. So if you just have something like this, it works really well. Last thing before we do dive in that I do want to mention is on my portfolio grid. You'll notice if I go down to some of these, there's only one or two items, and I am using a display of grid for this, and I'm just using the autofill here instead of the autofit. Autofit is what I use a lot of the time, but what that means is if you have two items, they end up stretching the whole size. So it looks kind of weird when it like drops down and they stretch out and change sizes. And that's going to be doubly true when we start animating it too. So just important here that I'm using an autofill, and if you're using Flexbox for your layout, it might be a little, you're going to have to make sure that the sizes aren't changing, because I think things get a little funky if they are. So throwing that out there again, all of this code is available to you. So it's linked just below this video if you want to check it out to reference any of this in more detail. And with that, we're ready to dive in and add those view transitions. So this is the main thing that's actually causing them to go right. We're checking, then we do this function that's all happening over here. And to do a view transition, it's ridiculous. All you have to do is a document.start view transition. And inside the start view transition, we're going to do an arrow function just because it's easy. We want to start the view transition and basically you do something, right? And what are we going to do? We're going to update our portfolio items. So I just paste this in there. This is what we're doing is happening. And just in doing that, if I come back, you can see that there was actually like a soft, you can see we have a crossfade now. And it's crossfading between when I do it. And there's nothing else I actually had to do there to get this to work. Now, there's another thing here that I'm noticing is when I'm doing this, the scroll bar comes in and out. It does make that less jarring because it's actually crossfading. So the page is getting a little bit wider or narrower. So really quickly, one thing you could do for this, let's go find my HTML element. I don't have one. Let's go find the body element. And then we can come here and say HTML and it's scroll bar gutter of stable. And if you do that, when you don't have a scroll bar, it reserves the space for the scroll bar still. If you're on a Mac, you might not even notice this because there's floating scroll bars. Windows, most browsers don't have the floating scroll bars. Firefox does, but Chrome does not. And all the Chromium ones, I believe, don't by default. So now you can see it doesn't actually cause any jarring shifts there. A little bonus tip as we get into this. Now there's one problem is browser support is actually getting pretty good. Firefox, as I'm recording this, is just adding the level 1 of the view transitions, but they're just adding this functionality, so it might not be there yet. And currently this is only going to work if the browser supports it. So we want to make sure that every browser is going to do what we want it to do, and we're just using it as a progressive enhancement. So that's very easy to do. All we do is say if, and in this if that's right here, we just say if our document doesn't have start view, if it doesn't know what start view transition is. So we just put the exclamation point to say, not, and then document.start view transition. And inside of here, we do the exact same thing. And so I can just take my update portfolio items, paste that right in there, and then we can come in to say return. And I'm putting the return here just to make sure it's not trying to do anything else that we had. So if it doesn't work, and say like Firefox or an older version, if you're on an iOS or something where it's not supported, or an older version of Chrome, it's going to just do this. And if not, it's going to do it with the view transition. So super easy way to do a progressive enhancement. Except we don't really just want it to crossfade, right? It's kind of boring. It's nice. The crossfade as a default is a really nice default. But ideally, we want it to do a little bit more. And the first thing we need to do if we want these to each be treated as individual items is the browser needs to see each one as an individual item. And right now what it's essentially doing is taking a screenshot of the entire page in this state, taking a screenshot of the entire page at this state, and then cross-transitioning between the two of them. So to be able to say, actually, this piece that's here and this piece, where is it, over web app, the data viz one here. So this one and this one, to say they're actually the same element, and I want you to treat them as the same element instead of just having this whole page that are as separate screenshots. I'm telling you that these are the same thing in between these two states. We can do that really easily. And the way we would do that is by coming in and actually giving each one of these. I'm going to go to my styles now to be able to do this. We're not actually going to do this in the CSS, but it is some CSS that we're going to be writing. So on the portfolio items, what we'd want to do is on every single portfolio item, so we'd say like portfolio item and child one. Don't do it this way, please. But let's say we did this. Then here we could give this a view transition name, and then you call it whatever you want. Item 1, let's say like that. And then you do the same thing for your 2 would be your item 2, and 3 would be your item 3, and so on and so forth. And you keep adding them. That sucks. So we're not going to do it that way. You never know how many elements you have and all of that. The easy way to do it is we're already using JavaScript here anyway. We have to be using JavaScript for this. So if this is going to work, JavaScript is working. So I'm just going to do it the easy way, where for each one of my portfolio items, so we can say here portfolio items, and then do a for each across them. And I'm going to say we want to get both the item and the index. Because when you do a for each, you can get the index of the item that you're looping over. And we want to do something with those. So I'm going to do my arrow function here. So it's just a function where we get the item itself as well as the index. And on those, what we're going to say is the item.style is going to be the view transition name, because we're doing it in JavaScript world. So we have to use camel case here, which will make it the kebab case when it applies this as CSS. And we can say is equal to, and put some backticks here, and then I'm going to say that it's item hyphen, and we can come in with the number, with the $sign, and just put the index here, index. So if I do that, and we go take a look in our page, let's go and inspect on here, and let's bring this all the way up, and we find our portfolio items, and it's not working because I made a small typo here, portfolio. You probably noticed that, save it again, and now we can see instantly all of these are getting a view transition name, item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, and so on. The only problem is well, it's not even a problem. The first one will be a 0 because the index of the first one is 0, but that works completely fine. The only important thing is that each one has a unique name. That's all we really need. So as long as each one has a unique name, we're completely fine. I wouldn't suggest you just put the number. This could even be portfolio item. Just in case you have other transitions and other things going on, you want to make sure you never have a naming collision with this, because they do need to be unique names. And because it now knows that this data viz is here and it's the same element that's getting moved up to over here, that means when I do this, it just slides it over for me. That's all I have to do. So like we're crossfading through them, but if the elements exist in these different states, then it's going to slide them around. I think that's kind of interesting. And it's just because it goes, oh, I know you were here and I know you're here, so we're just going to move this one element on over. And at the basic level, like right out of the box, that's awesome, I find. I think it worked really well. You might want to slow it down, speed it up, and there's a lot more we can do with view transitions. I just think that the filtering, this actually shows us a lot of what we might want. So we're going to dive into adding and switching through our color themes now. So to get started with the theme change, I'm just going to paste this in really fast, which is just setting up our theme changing. Basically, I'm looking at what I have a theme custom property that I'm setting on the document. If I come and take a look at my custom properties here, I'm setting that theme to control whether I'm in my light or dark color scheme. And then that's using the colors from here. My light dark means this is if it's in my light scheme. This is if it's in my dark scheme. And that means if I set the theme to either light or dark, it's going to force one or the other if I select it from my drop down there. There's other ways you can set theming. Again, I don't want to dive too deep into that right here, but basically I'm setting theme to the selected theme. So either light or dark, or it goes to system, in which case it just throws it out and it uses the system color themes. So with that, I can just come here and say that we can update our theme, right? We have the update theme, we get the selected theme with the target value, we pass that over, and then I can switch between my light and my dark, or I can go to my system and it scraps it, goes back to my system color scheme. Now, what we can do, once again, is the same as before, where we want our document dot start view transition, and in the start view transition right here, we want to do something. So we do an arrow function, and what do we want to do? We want to do the update right here. And if we're doing this, that means we do want to make sure that this doesn't break the functionality for browsers that don't support it. So we need to duplicate it. So we do our if document dot start view transition, and then we do the same thing inside of there. I'm just repeating this to make sure you don't forget. When it comes time to doing it, we set that up, make sure it works for everybody, and then we progressively enhance it with the actual view transition. And so if we come take a look, oh, look, it fades, and then it fades, and it fades, and we get that same crossfade that we had the default happening for over here. And right away, that's pretty cool, right? But now we're going to look at some CSS stuff that we can do that links into all of this. But the CSS for view transitions can be quite a lot. We're not going to look at every part of it, but we're going to look at enough to get you going. So the first thing is it's using a lot of pseudo elements. So we have we're going to start with a view transition group of root. And we're going to say, I'll explain this, don't worry. I'm going to say the animation duration is 5 seconds. And if we come take a look now, when I switch over to my light theme, it's going to take 5 seconds to switch over. And then after that 5 seconds is done, I can switch over to my dark theme, and then it's going to do the same crossfade over to the dark theme over 5 seconds. Now, I did a long time on purpose, because if I go to my light and I decide I want to change my mind, I can't. When we have view transitions running, it's going to block us from being able to do anything, especially these ones on the root like this one here. So be really careful when you're doing view transitions that you're not doing ridiculously long time frames like this one has, because you can run into problems, and it makes your site unresponsive, and that sucks. And 5 seconds for a theme change is a little bit much. The other thing is, you'll notice I have this group here, and I'm saying root. So by default, everything's part of the root view transition. And this view transition group is actually made out of 2 parts. So we have a view transition new, and we have a view transition old, like that. So if this would be the exact same thing, or not this would be the exact same thing that I just had a second ago. And so if you do have the new and the old here, if they're going to be the same, there's no reason to do that. You can just do a view transition of group, and it selects the new and the old. There are times where you might want one or the other. We'll see an example of that in a second. But we have to be really careful with this too, because we're making the page on-responsive, like I said. But maybe you have something like this that's like taking forever, but it's on purpose for whatever reason. This is an exaggeration at 5 seconds. The problem is, it also means that if I do a different view transition, like if I do my filtering here, it's going to go pretty fast, but my whole thing is actually locked. I'm clicking, I'm clicking, I'm clicking, I'm clicking, I'm clicking, and then after 5 seconds, I can switch over. It sees these as different view transitions, and that's because each one of these has its own view transition name on it. So it sees those as a separate animation, and so it's sort of escaping outside of this duration that we're setting here. We're going to see how we can prevent that conflict from happening, because there are times where you might want some that are slower and faster. In this case, though, let's focus on a few other fun things we can do. We're going to make this a little bit faster too, just so it can help speed up our demo a little bit. And I'm going to come in with a keyframes animation here. So we're going to say keyframes of move in. And we're not going to keep this one forever, but I just want to use it because it's very visual what's happening with it. And what I can do there is actually say this view transition group of our whole page here, we can say what animation we want to use. You can use any animation you want. So animation of move in, and it's going to be over 2 seconds. So if I hit the save on there, and this is going to look kind of weird. I'll let you know there's a few moving pieces and not moving pieces, but if I switch over, the new theme slides into place. Now you'll notice these haven't moved. And the reason those haven't moved is because we've given them all their own view transition name, right? We looped over them and we said they all have a name. So that separates them from this root one that we're doing here. They're not actually getting this animation on them. And to show you that happening, we're going to come here and we can make this like 20 seconds just because it'll make it easier to see in our DevTools. And if I open the DevTools on the HTML element right here, if I go and I switch this between themes, you'll see that view transition is coming here. So we have a view transition on the HTML. And if I look inside of there, I can see all of those view transitions. So even though some of these are these elements down here, it's treating this separate than the theme that you can see. And that's kind of weird because as I scroll, you can see like the old theme in the background. It's kind of neat along the way there. That's happening. So it separates them. So in here, if we turned off that and we didn't actually assign them all their own view transition name, let's go and speed this back up because 20 seconds is a little ridiculous. If I go over to my light, now the entire view is scrolling down into view. So kind of cool that we can do that. And then I can go back to my dark and slide that one in. Now that's kind of weird to slide things around like that, I find. We probably wouldn't want to be doing that. So another thing, instead of doing a move in, I'm going to replace this with another animation, which is a circle in using a clip path. And then we'll change this here to be circle in. And this, I think, looks a little bit nicer. And so if I switch my theme now, we actually get a clip path going. And there's some weird stuff happening here because you can see the whole thing like disappears and moves in and everything. So we go to my light and then everything switches over. And part of that is just because we have the snapshot of one, we have a snapshot of the other thing that are happening, and then it's transitioning between them using this circle in right here. And that's because when we do the view transition, it snapshots everything, we get a before and we after, and then it runs this animation to switch between the two of them. I don't actually want this clip path because it's doing the clip path on both of them, right? It's clip pathing. When I do the dark, both the old version and the new version are getting that same thing on it. And it looks really strange when we do that. So this is where it can actually be useful to change this. So I'm actually going to say the new one should get this only. The old one shouldn't be getting this. This will improve things, but it won't be perfect. So I can go to my light. Or actually, I didn't even improve things at all. I'm going to go to my system. I thought it would improve things, but it's okay. We're going to do a view transition old of root here. And then we're going to say that it has an animation delay of 2 seconds. And for this, I would make this a custom property just so we don't have it in 2 spots at once. Makes it a little bit easier if this was in production. So now if I go to light, you can actually see the old theme is staying behind. Let me go back to my system or my dark theme, and it goes like that. And what this is basically saying is take the snapshot of the old one, but leave it there. Don't do anything with it. It's staying there for the full 2 seconds. And then the new one is transitioning in on top of it using the clip path. And then once that's done, the old one can vanish away. So yeah, that's cool. And one thing that's really important is like, don't go like, oh, I'll just make this like super long. So I'm not worried about that because when our view transitions are running, it's locking the page out and we can't do anything with it. So when I go to my light, I can't actually interact with this page until the view transition is done. And the view transition won't be done for 20 seconds because it's waiting for this delay to finish here. So it's really important if you are doing something like this, first of all, don't make them too long because it'd be ridiculous. But the page, you cannot interact with the page until the view transition is finished. Now it's also really weird because I have that same thing coming in on these, which looks really bizarre. So we're going to come back and turn these back on to make sure that they're using the correct one, where it'll slide around. But we have a problem now. When I click here, it's locking me out. You see, I'm clicking, and then it finally switches. And then I'm clicking, and then it finally switches. So even though these animations are snappy, if you remember, when we run a view transition, it's going on the HTML, and they're all firing. So if I click here, in there, we're getting all the view transitions are happening. And so I have a 2-second one here. Everything is locked out for 2 seconds, including the snappy ones. Now there's ways around this, and that's what we're going to be looking at now, because this was one of the big headaches I ran into with them, and we're going to be doing this, creating guarded view transitions. So to create a guarded view transition is actually pretty easy to do. We just have to come back into our JavaScript where we created our view transitions to start with. So here, let's start with this is the one for our theme. So we're going to start here. Don't have to worry about this. This doesn't use view transitions anyway. We're only going to be coming over onto this one right here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take all of this out right here. So I'm just going to cut that. So we just have our start view transition. And instead of just putting in what we're doing, we need an object here. So a configuration object. So we're going to come here and I'm going to write update, put a colon, and then I'm going to paste back in what we had. But with one, oh no, there we go. Exactly. So we're going to have our start view transition. Then we have our curly braces. And in there we have this update. And then I'm going to do a comma, and I'm going to come on a new line and write types. And I've done it before where I've written type. Type does not work. It is types because it is an array, and you can add multiple types if you want. In this case, we're just doing our theme transition, so I'm going to call this one theme. So when we do this view transition, our update is this, and we're naming it theme. And then we can do the same thing up top for the other one we did here for the filter. So I come inside here, cut out all of that, put in my curly braces, update, paste in what we had, put a comma, then we can write types, put in our array, and in this case, this is our filter animation. So I'll just call it filter. The name that you're putting here is anything you want to name it. So let's go wild. come up with any descriptive name that works for you. In doing just this, we haven't fixed the problem. It's still locking us for that full 2 seconds. And once again, that's because when we're running a view transition, all of them are running. By setting the types now, we can only run the ones we want to be running for the amount of time that we want to run. This is the first step. Second step is back in CSS, where we're going to split things up a little bit. So when we're running a view transition, it's on our root. We saw that. Let's do this one more time. In our DevTools, I come here. On the HTML element, we have this view transition that's there, right? And then we go back. The view transition is on the HTML element. So what I'm going to do is we're going to come in with a new pseudo class. These are pseudo elements, double colon. Pseudo classes, pseudo elements, there's a lot of them when it comes. There's a few more we're going to be seeing. View transitions are just full of them. And what we're going to do, this one's a class, so it's singular. And that's the reason it's a class is because it's based on state. Sort of like a hover state. We're looking at the state of, is there a view transition running or not? And what is it? So we can look for the active view transition type, and we can do stuff when there's an active view transition type. This pseudo is going to be looking at the HTML element. So I'm going to use nesting here because it makes life a little bit easier. And we're actually going to move all of this inside of here. And of course, we want to have a type. So the type is in here as well. And so in this case, this is our theme that we're looking for. So when we have a view transition type, the theme is at the bottom. So here we're saying this is our view transition with the type of theme. So when theme is going, we're going to apply these right here. Now there's one problem with having moved these into here, and that's the view transition old and the view transition new of the root. These are on the element itself. So because I'm nesting, I am going to have to put the ampersand at the beginning here as well. So I'm looking at, so effectively this is the same as doing, let's just copy this, paste it, active view transition type theme, and then getting the old one. This is verbose and kind of crazy. And if you're using this type of stuff, the nesting will be supported as well. So we're setting this up like this with the ampersand. And now if I do this, you can see it's actually still snappy. If I come over here and I switch, it's still doing the long one. And I can go back and that's doing the 2 seconds, because these 2-second animations are only getting applied when the transition type is our theme. So that's actually pretty good. This isn't perfect, but in a situation like this, we could leave it here and we'd be happy and we wouldn't run into any issues. But if you have lots of different timings going on, what I would actually suggest you do, and this is kind of weird, we can take our root, we can actually say that this has a view transition name of none. And by doing this, what we're actually saying is don't transition anything on the root by default. Because this name here for the old and the new in the group we were doing of root before, this is just a user agent style that's applying that name to the root element of our page. So by saying none here, we've turned it off. Now there'll never be anything getting in the way of other ones. And then if we do have to animate something on the root, we can come in here and we can add that in. So then we can say here the and root is the view transition name of root and reapply it back on. This is, I think we could just do this and it would actually work still. Let's double check. Yeah, it would still work because this pseudo class is getting applied to the root. It just looks really strange. Whereas if you put root here, I find it actually makes it make more sense. So this is an extra step you don't necessarily have to do, but it can just be a safe way to say, like, normally site-wide, we don't actually have any. And when I'm applying ones that will slow things down or do other things, I can reapply it where needed, just to be a little bit of like a safeguard. And then we can do the same thing on these guys, because maybe you want to do something different down here. So once again, we want to be safe. We want to make sure that if we're doing these view transitions, we're not affecting other things that are going on the page. So we can say our active view transition type. And in this case, it was our filter. So when we do that one, now we can do other stuff that's specific to our filter. And we know that all of these things, we do a 10-second one. It doesn't matter. It's only going to apply when we're doing this type of thing. So we can then do it on our root, I guess, but we don't have root now. We actually have all these different elements that are in here doing this like sliding and crossfading and stuff. And maybe we want to change stuff with that. So if I just wanted to slow things down, I definitely could then take something like this, reapply the root, and then we could say our and view transition group of root and have an animation duration of 5 seconds. And we could do this, but it's not going to do what you think it would do. Because if I come here and I change it, these are still happening fast. And I've just locked my page out again for 5 seconds. Frustrating, right? This is the pain I went through in trying to learn these. So hopefully I can give you a bit of a shortcut in all the problems I ran into. So the reason for this is, again, we're looking at the root, the entire page. We're not looking at each one of these that we've given unique names to. I need to look at each one of those. And in the old days, what we'd actually have to do is then choose our item 0 and do that. And then choose, or I guess you could do comma separated here instead of doing each one as a different one. But then we would come here and say view transition group item 1 and view transition group item 2 and item 3. They still all need to have their unique names. We can't do this without unique names on them. And at one point we had to do it this way to actually change the stuff on them. Now, luckily for us, we don't have to do it that way. We can come in and we can actually apply it here. So it's like we're keeping all of the filter stuff sort of together when it comes to the CSS for it. And so what we could say here is, actually we don't need this anymore either. We don't need the root. We're not going to be using it. So I could actually remove this. And what we can say is that our portfolio item. So if we come and take a look here, my portfolio item, just each one of these is my portfolio item. So I'm just selecting all of them. And then I can say the view transition class, and I can give it a name. So I can call it portfolio item. And now all of them have a view transition class on that I can select by coming here and just, it's a class. So dot portfolio item. Make sure that because it's a class, you're putting the dot here. This is very JavaScripty, right? This is a little bit like when you're doing selecting things where if you're doing a query selector all, you put the dot. But if you're doing like a get element by class, you don't put the dot because it's already a class. So just remember, because this is another one of those things I do where it's a class where you don't put the dot here, you put the dot here. So just remember that. Makes sense, but it's annoying at times. So by doing that now, I could actually say that the animation duration, I can't spell today, is, we'll say 5 seconds. And the animation for those is now all 5 seconds. Kind of neat, right? And we can control the way those are animating just through having the class here. It's only applying that class when we need it to. And then, and this doesn't have to be within this guard. This could be anywhere we need it to be. But the nice thing with this is this won't cause, we're not going on the route. We're just doing these individual ones. It will do its 5 seconds. It comes off. Now, there is a view transition running, so I can't interact with the rest of the page still. Very important to know that as long as you have long view transitions, you are locking things out. But it's going to save things just for here. And I've been doing animation durations up until now, but maybe we're going to say 1 second. We'll slow it down, probably slower than you'd actually want it to be, but kind of cool. But why don't we try something? And I didn't plan this part, so we might have to experiment a little bit here, but Easing Wizard is like my new favorite site. And we're going to go to Spring, and we'll just grab this one, copy to clipboard. It's going to be kind of aggressive, I think. But we're going to do this as an animation timing function. I don't know if I spelled that right or not, but we're going to paste in this giant linear timing function that we have, and let's see what this gives us. It's a little bit too springy, I think, but it's kind of exciting. Let's tone this one down a little bit. Let's do maybe the lazy one would be a little bit better. Let's do this, but the mass is maybe a lot less. Yeah, we could tone the mass way down, the stiffness a little bit, and even the damping. Let's try this. Maybe this would be a little bit less aggressive and see what this gives us instead. Because that was about to fly off the page. And as I said, we might have to experiment a little, but there we go. I think that looks a little bit better. My timing, yeah, that's a little bit softer. And then maybe that's like a 0.5 seconds just to make it a little bit snappier. You can come in with the arrow keys. So if with the arrow keys, you'll see it's just going to skip to the end of an animation. Like if I go too fast, I think it's cutting the animation a little bit, but hey, I think it looks pretty good with that little bounce effect that's in there and just snazzes it up a bit. So you can do all sorts of really good things here. This is not an all-in guide on single page view transitions. There's lots more you can do. The group, the new, the old, and these guards, I think will get you like 80 to 90% of the way there with most of the things you're ever going to need. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video. And if you want to see how to create a navigation like this one that we have on the page that slides in and slides out, well, there is a video where I do exactly that here on Frontend Masters. It is linked down below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And until next time, don't forget to make your corner of the internet just a little bit more awesome.